Welcome to our story of the history of Los Alamitos and its community. I'm your host, Myrt Perisho. When I say community, it takes in a larger territory than the actual city of Los Alamitos. So we're going to tell you all about Rossmoor, how it started, how it incorporated, the problem it's had, and we have two experts here with us tonight, and I'm really pleased that they agreed to come on our show. We have Paul Erskine, welcome, and Henry Zack, welcome. I'm glad you two decided to come and let me pick your brains.
We're glad to be here, I'm sure.
Good.
Brains?
Brains, yes.
Paul's a brainy one.
Paul's a brain. Well, we are filming this at the News-Enterprise, which is where your business is. You are the owner and editor of the News-Enterprise, right?
Yes. My wife Jerry and I own the
You and Jerry,
News-Enterprise,
right.
yes.
And it's a beautiful place. We really want to thank you for letting us use it and disturbing your whole place for a couple of days.
Well, very happy to have you here.
Good. And the wine and all the other
Yes,
things.
yes.
I want to put that in. Well, let's start with you, Paul, the first question. Why don't you start and give us a general history of the Rossmoor area?
Well, first of all, I think, Myrt, that I should give a disclaimer. I wasn't here when it first started, and there are many lapses in my memory, but what I recall will be what I'll repeat.
That's what we're going on, is our recall.
We actually moved into Rossmoor in '59, and we knew of the stories of the starting of Rossmoor.
Mm-hmm. Which was what year?
1950, mid-50s. Ross Cortese, who was the developer of Rossmoor, was originally, his family was up from San Marino Way, and he came down into southern Los Angeles County. And as I recall, he'd finished a tract right across the a border in Los Angeles County called Lakewood Ranchos. Off the corner of Palo Verde and what is it, Spring?
I think so. Very modern homes. Very
yes,
different.
they were very avant-garde. And then he came to the area that now is Rossmoor, and at the time it was known as a sort of a tule. Swamp area.
Swamp, right.
Yes, I've heard from a lot of the old-timers that it was. And as I understand, the Oddie family originally farmed some of the land down there for the Bixby Ranch people. But Cortese took an option on about 900 acres of land and started his dream city of Rossmoor. And at the time, he said he was going to build a San Marino, a southern San Marino in Orange County. And he started his tract on about 632 acres in the southern section of Rossmoor. And then it gradually expanded to about 800 or 900 acres, encompassing the full 3,500 homes.
900 acres?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah, yeah. 3,500 homes eventually.
Yes.
The first resident moved into Rossmoor, a family by the name of Musser, Sam Musser, as I recall, moved into Rossmoor in 1957. And there were 4 or 5 models built to begin with, and the houses were very interesting.
Oh, they were beautiful.
Yes.
Everyone was impressed with Rossmoor models.
Yes, yes. We were living in Garden Grove at the time, on the corner of Orangewood and Chapman and Brookhurst, all orange groves at that time. And we took the long road down 7th Street, which was two-way street at the time, and saw these models and were very impressed with them. Henry, do you have any recollections of incorporation at that time?
Early in '57.
Yeah, the start of Rossmoor?
Yes, I think Ross Cortese decided that he would like to incorporate Rossmoor when there was only a few homes there, and in '57 he said he was going to incorporate Rossmoor, and immediately the people of Los Alamitos and whoever lived in Rossmoor objected, and they objected strongly and vehemently and vociferously enough that it finally killed it, and he did not actually incorporate it.
But that was just with a very few people,
That's right. He thought he'd probably sneak it through, but it didn't happen. There was no vote on it, and it never went through. That was the first Rossmoor intent.
Well, why did he want to incorporate?
Well, I suppose if you have if you're a city, you probably decide that it gives you more prestige, and he probably figured that he could say that he would, as a city, he could offer the various services that cities offer, where some people might be put off if they were unincorporated and probably would fear not having most people came from a city, and I would assume that they, in his mind, they would feel more comfortable with it.
Well, there's some other aspects even before his first attempt to incorporate. He originally, his original brochures that he had for people that came to the tract or the model homes said Long Beach's smartest new suburb. He had envisioned annexing the Rossmoor development to Long Beach. And Long Beach actually went to the state legislature. It was not possible to annex an area across a county line. And so Long Beach had gone to the state legislature to see if it could be changed. But because it would affect the entire state rather than just this little parcel of land down here, a relative small parcel, they did not allow him to annex to Long Beach. So he was somewhat disappointed in that, and there are certain advantages to controlling your own territory. Most of the 13 homes were people that worked for Cortese, some of his salesmen. And
so he did this incorporation try with just 13 homes?
Yes, yes. And the Rossmoor Homeowners Association was originally conceived to fight this incorporation attempt by Cortese. People that were buying homes in the area or had already had their deposits down felt very strongly that they didn't want, in spite of the fact he was building nice homes and everything, they did not want to be controlled by Cortese through his people that would form the city and have their own council elected for 4 years before people had even moved into the area.
It was a good end play type run, but just didn't work at that time.
Well, it was a real struggle, though, when they did start selling these homes to even buy one.
Yes.
They were very much in demand.
Yes, that's right.
As you can tell us, right,
yes,
Henry?
They sure were.
Tell us about your experience in trying to buy a house.
Well, we were renting a house in Lakewood, but we had friends already living in Rossmoor. They were one of the early buyers, and they liked the Rossmoor area so much that they were continually urging all their friends to come on in and join them. And we kind of held out for a while. We liked the ranch-style house, and the early models were more traditional, so we thought we'd wait a bit, and perhaps one of these modern, low-flung ranches would come up. And sure enough, that did happen, and when the opportunity came to get a ranch-style Golden Estates model, we were all ready for that. And one day in '59, a notice appeared saying that a new unit would be opening up for sale. Show up at the sales office at 8 o'clock sharp, it said.
This is in the newspaper?
Yes, so the sales office was located then just as you entered Rossmoor Way from Los Alamitos Boulevard on the left-hand side. So I showed up about 5:45 that morning, and I was third in line.
Is that right?
Yeah, number 2 had got there about a half hour ahead of me. Number 1 had been standing there since before 4 a.m. in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
And by 7 o'clock, that line was as long as a moving line. By 8 o'clock, you couldn't see the end of it. It was really a lot of people lined up. At 8 o'clock on the dot, the salespeople opened up the office, but they'd only let the first 10 people in line in. They said 10 at a time, we've got to control this crowd. So the first 10, I was third. Good spot. We all rushed in to the tract map that was up on the side wall of the building.
Oh yeah, you'd have a map.
And the tract map showed the lot locations and the kind of house that was going to be built on them. Well, before I had got there, of course, I discussed with my wife, if we had a choice, what kind of a location would we want? And we thought about it, and we said, well, if we had our druthers, we'd like to be within walking distance of an elementary school. We had little kids who were thinking about their schooling. And we'd like to be a few streets in from the edge of the tract, away from the boulevard. And we'd like to be away from the side of the Rossmoor area that had that vacant land out there. You know, the vacant land, they were going to build a golf course, and after midnight it turned into a freeway. So, anyhow, in we rushed, everybody's waving their down payment checks, $1,800 as I recall in those days.
What did you pay for the house?
Let me tell you that. I'm gonna I'll get to that. We rushed in and put your finger on the tract map on the lot. You'd hold that lot. That was for
Your finger could hold the lot?
Yeah, we were holding it. With all the other people crowded around us, and with hurry, hurry, they're yelling. There's people trying to break down the door. And you put your finger on that lot and looked around because maybe there's another lot that's a little better. And then now you finally figured, well, you got a good one, I'll hold on to that. And then you had to grab the salesman. He was busy, people screaming and yelling. If you get the salesman, and you have practically forced your down payment check on him and make sure he puts a little red sticker on your lot. That's yours now with the sales sticker on it.
I'll be darned.
And having done that, you could kind of relax a little and you think to yourself, I thought to myself, my God, what are you doing, Henry? There's $19,200 involved here, you know? Imagine that.
Yeah.
We had a 29-year, 4 3/4% FHA fixed loan. And I think, gee, and the payment, $137 a month.
Well, Henry, mine was much more expensive than that. I had an Eldorado, and I paid about $20,600 for it.
You must have
and as I
moved
recall,
later than me.
I recall my payments included tax, interest, and
yeah, this was $137.
Was about $167. So
And that was 4.5%.
No, mine was about 5 or 5 1/4, and I later refinanced it through an insurance company because I was able to get a loan for 4.5. So you know, the figures were.
You were original.
I was original homeowner.
So was I.
My house was right on the corner of Donovan and Kurth, across the street from the Rossmoor Park. But the land where the sales office was located later became a church. Temporary church in the sales office after all the homes were sold, and then the church was finally removed, and the lots were sold off to a number of people along Rossmoor Way that were able to develop custom homes.
That's the reason for those custom homes right along
yes,
there.
That's right.
Well, and did people just come in and buy the lot and they could build their own home?
That's the way those particular
just those few houses on Rossmoor.
There were about a dozen, or not even less than that.
There's less than that. I think there's 4 actually.
Well, they go up a little bit further.
Or possibly 6.
I know everyone feels that way about their first home, how they're ever going to afford it, but my word, how they've gone up. Aren't you glad you bought in Rossmoor when you did?
I'm glad we got talked into it.
Yeah, I'd like to take account sometime, a survey of how many people could afford to buy their house today.
Yes.
It'd be rather difficult, I think, for me to buy my own house for me.
We're going to take a break right now, okay? Halfway through the half hour, we go into a little show and tell time, which is then and now pictures of Rossmoor that we have. So we'll show those, and then we'll come back and continue. Okay?
Great.
Take it away. We're back with Paul Erskine and Henry Zack. Paul, I'd really like to hear a little more about the incorporation of Rossmoor and what everyone went through.
Well, I don't think you should say, Myrt, the incorporation of Rossmoor. Actually, what happened was a whole series of efforts to either incorporate or attempts by other cities to annex Rossmoor. We mentioned in the first part of the show the the first attempt by Cortese with 13 homes. Shortly after that, there was an attempt in '59, the first attempt of Los Alamitos to incorporate. At that time, they attempted to annex the entire burgeoning community of Rossmoor within their city. But the appeals of the interest in Rossmoor, including Ross Cortese, they were successful in keeping it out of the first unsuccessful Los Alamitos annexation try. Then in 1960, when Los Alamitos tried again, they attempted to include the northern one-third of Rossmoor, which was largely uninhabited at the time, in their cityhood attempt, along with some of the county areas that now have businesses in them on the north, say the south east corner of west corner of Catella and Los Alamitos Boulevard.
The old Catella Deli and the car
That's
wash.
right. That's correct. But they were also thwarted in that. Actually, the residents that were living there at the time, including myself, were part of the group that fought the battle to keep that out of Los Alamitos because we did not want the community split. And we submitted a whole group of petitions of property owners there, and we had Cortese's support, and we were able to keep it out of Los Alamitos. Immediately after we thwarted Los Alamitos, and they were successful in their cityhood attempt without Rossmoor in it. Immediately after we succeeded in not being included in Los Alamitos, the first cityhood attempt was made by proponents of incorporation.
The Committee of 100?
Yes, I headed what was called the Committee of 100, and these were people, community leaders in Rossmoor that were in favor of forming a city. And we had within the boundaries of a proposed city of Rossmoor all of the Highlands area, all of the Naval Air Station in south of 7th Street, or the freeway now. We had the Hellman Ranch.
Which is Leisure World?
Well, part of the Hellman Ranch, but the Hellman Ranch down in the hill area just north of Seal Beach, plus all the area that was in Seal Beach, plus the Rossmoor Shopping Center, all within
That would have been about a 7,000 acre development.
But there were opposition forces that arose within the community, and
Committee to keep Rossmoor unincorporated?
Yeah, there were a number of people that said we didn't have the tax base, and the shopping center was not built at the time, so when the final vote was in, we lost it by 3-2. A number of us were elected to the city council who were proponents.
Including Paul Erskine.
Myself, and one of the other activists at the time was Malcolm Lucas, who is now a Supreme Court judge. And he was elected to the first Rossmoor City Council, but there was never a city.
As an aside, I also ran as a candidate. There was a field of 14 people running. Paul, I think, came in second, and he would have been on the council had there been a city. I ran 12. But I consider that good. If you listed them all alphabetically, Z comes last, but I moved up 2 spots.
So anyway, when that incorporation attempt failed, a number of cities immediately tried to annex again. Garden Grove was on an annexation rampage, actually, and they were putting strip zones.
They snuck a finger down on just north of Garden Grove Boulevard, hoping to come westward and block off Seal Beach from coming north and Los Alamitos from going south, but they didn't succeed.
All three incorporated cities actually had overlapping annexations, and they wound up in a sort of a court battle, and none of them got it. And immediately thereafter, another incorporation attempt started, and this one was another full-fledged incorporation attempt with the territory slightly changed. It lost too, but by a little larger majority. People at that time had said, no, we've spoken, so don't bother us again.
And guess who came in first and second? On the council, it was not to be.
Yeah.
Lucas and Erskine came in
Again,
second.
huh?
Yeah, but we had one other then after that incorporation attempt, and it was a sort of a weak attempt by a gentleman by the name of Bill Thomas, and it didn't get off the ground because by this time Cortese was fed up with the whole thing too, and so he threw his weight over the county.
Yeah, that's the one where the county council ruled that it was not a valid thing because the boundaries were
not
too close,
sufficiently changed, so
too
they just
similar
threw
to
it
the other
out.
one.
And that was the last of the incorporation attempts. But annexation attempts did not stop after that. We've had annexation attempts in 75, groups of individuals in Rossmoor who were active in the Chamber of Commerce in Los Alamitos felt they would like to join Los Alamitos and got together with then city manager James Smith and attempted to persuade the people of Rossmoor again to go with Los Alamitos. We had one other annexation attempt in '79 where they tried to take Los Alamitos had a deal to take business properties again at the corner of southwest corner of the Dunlap properties.
And the apartment buildings.
But that was fought successfully too.
What different towns have tried? Seal Beach, Los Alamitos?
Seal Beach, Los Alamitos,
Cypress?
Garden Grove,
No.
never Cypress. You have to be a contiguous city.
Okay.
And those were the only three that were contiguous.
Okay.
Seal Beach was successful. I forget what year that was, Henry. When they took the shopping center.
In '66.
'66. Many people in Rossmoor wonder why the Rossmoor Shopping Center isn't the Rossmoor Shopping Center.
So why isn't it?
It's Seal Beach
I know.
Shopping Center.
Why?
The reason it was not was there was an owner, this was after Cortese's time, and he had sold the land to some developers, among them a Judge Gittleson. And Judge Gittleson was very anxious to develop his properties on the west side of the shopping center and put in townhouses. And the county was not willing to give him that concession. Seal Beach was, and there were also some other little compensations, as we understand, the free trash collection and things like that in the shopping center. So Gittleson was willing to just throw in with Seal Beach for some of these concessions.
Seal Beach was pretty smart. Over the years, they had been making annexations coming up to below what's the freeway now. And in fact, they have annexed College Park East. So they were in a contiguous position. And they had blocked off Los Alamitos from going below the freeway, and they had come up and were now north of the freeway.
So Beach really
so
dips into our
And being contiguous like that, they could just reach across the Los Alamitos Boulevard and pick up the shopping center, which of course was the prize because that's where the tax monies are.
I think one of the interesting factors too is the fact that John Williams, who was formerly city manager in Los Alamitos, had switched jobs and was city manager of Seal Beach when all these vigorous annexation attempts were taking place. So I don't know how many people in Los Alamitos remember John, but he was.
But he went to Seal Beach.
He was a very aggressive city manager.
The first thing Seal Beach did was change the name of Los Al Boulevard to Seal Beach Boulevard down in the southern end.
Right.
People got lost in the freeway.
This must be very confusing to the people in Dawson Creek, British
Well,
Columbia, listening, trying to figure out
there was such a hue and
what
cry, they
this
had to
is
put the
all
sign
about.
back, saying that Los Alamitos is up the road.
I think one of the other things, if we really have time in this segment, is to talk about the roads in Rossmoor. Many people who live in Rossmoor consider them a nightmare because you can't get there from here. You have to go some other place. And Ross Cortese deliberately designed them that way to cut traffic flows within his...
But why did he have 3 Kensingtons?
Well...
I appreciate the traffic flow, but boy, I don't like that name of them starting and stopping.
Well, it breaks up the street and you just can't drive through. The street I live on, Wallingsford Ave, is the same thing. It's broken up into 3 segments because of a U-shaped kind of things in there.
Yeah, but it is an area that drives you crazy.
If you don't know where you're at, you're stuck
all the time. Well, you know, we do have some time left. I would like to hear a little bit about the News-Enterprise, Paul.
Well, the News-Enterprise were proud to say, has a history dating back to 1923. And people say, well, how does the News-Enterprise go back to 1923? And really, we trace our history like a family. The paper started out as the West Orange County Publishing Company, and the first Enterprise was in the West Orange County Publishing Company had 3 newspapers. It had the Boynton Park News, it had a Stanton edition, 4, a Westminster paper, and it had a Cypress Enterprise. Paul Crozon, who was the brother of Dale Crozon, who was a long-time publisher of the Enterprise before Jerry and I got the paper, he eventually started a Los Alamitos Enterprise, and his brother was put in charge of the operation. And then Dale eventually bought the Enterprise, and Dale then sold it to 2 men by the name of Bob Lino and Bill Bennett, who formed the Linnet Printing Company that's over on Catalina Boulevard.
Okay.
And we had been publishing a paper in Rossmoor, Jerry and I, called the, I see we're running short of time. So
We've got about a minute left. Just
okay, so anyway, to make a long story short, we were publishing a Rossmoor Homeowners News, and we were doing so well with that paper that we bought the Enterprise and combined the 2 papers and called it the News-Enterprise, which it is today.
And a lot of people take the News-Enterprise. I mean, when it comes out on Thursdays, I get to it right away. I've got to find out what everyone's doing in town.
Well, we pride ourselves on having a lot of local news.
You have a lot of good coverage in News-Enterprise. It's a good newspaper. Well, I love talking to you about this, but you've got so much more to tell that I want to do another half hour with the 2 of you, because we didn't even touch the school board. How about it?
Very good.
Okay, you come back for another half hour.
Sounds
good,
great.
both of you. Okay, then tune in next week, because we're going to continue the talk with these 2 gentlemen, and until then, so long.